But now, in this time of change, if they do not heed the warning and change fundamentally how they're doing business, then they will not survive. In this video, I'm going to be exposing even more destruction that's headed for legacy automotive car dealerships. I'm Josh West, and this is Josh West 24/7. I'm a 15-year veteran of Legacy Automotive, but now I've seen that the Legacy Automotive Dealership Network is completely obsolete. And I'm going to continue to show you why. And so that brings me to my next point, which is artificial intelligence and how AI is going to wipe out countless legacy auto dealership jobs. IBM has just announced that they are pausing hiring for any roles that can be fulfilled by artificial intelligence. And at this point, that's about 7,800 jobs. I mean, if IBM can replace 7,800 people with AI, why can't AI replace a car dealership salesperson? I mean, Tesla's already doing it. Dealerships are going to be completely eliminated. Tesla has already demonstrated in Europe by doing remote test drive centers based in shopping malls and plazas and things like that, where you don't even need a person to go on the test drive. They have a money back guarantee. You can drive a certain amount of kilometers or keep the car for a certain amount of time. If you don't like it, just bring it back. Legacy car dealerships don't have a policy like that at all. Not only that, but Tesla has online ordering and one set pricing. Very transparent, same price right across the nation. Do legacy auto dealerships have that? No. Well, where's all this commission money going? Wait till the legacy auto manufacturers realize that it will be cheaper for them to implement software with artificial intelligence to completely eradicate and completely replace the entire sales force for their entire brand right across the nation with what? Of maybe a few $1,000,000, $10 million, $100 million. The reality is that once that software is implemented, like Tesla has done, you completely eliminate the need for all of those jobs. I mean, direct to consumer sales is the future. It's the only way forward for legacy automotive. And the reality is that the salespeople that are sticking around, waiting for it to get better, waiting for things to improve, are going to be sorely mistaken and just downright wrong. I mean, they're just waiting to get pushed out. That's the reality of the situation. You know, it's going to happen, I believe, very abruptly, and there's going to be a very violent change that will happen within a short period of time. Because as soon as one legacy automotive chain flips to using artificial intelligence and going direct to consumer sales, like Volvo was talking about, well, then the others are forced to follow suit. Tesla has already carried the torch and led the way to prove that the model works. And so, of course, you're going to have legal pushback from these dealer groups and all these guys that got super rich off the auto industry over the last 100 years. Great, that's nice. But things are changing, and things are changing at a very rapid pace, and competition is fierce. And you can have all these dealerships run out there and say, oh yeah, but our dealer network, and we're going to fight back, and we're going to sue the manufacturers and all this great stuff. Great, cool. That's really great. But let me ask you this. If customers stop buying their cars, period, end of story, and they don't even have to stop cold turkey. We're talking about like 30%, 40%, 50% plummet in sales permanently across the board. What does that do to the dealership network? Well, these guys just go bankrupt left and right because they literally don't have enough business to survive. And as AI marches in, it has the ability to give the consumer a significantly better and more consistent experience. And yet nobody seems to be talking about this in the automotive world. Legacy, of course. And yet the conversation needs to be had. And I'm wondering, well, why are they not talking about it? Well, because they're scared, because they're full of fear. You have general managers that are making great money, huge money. And over the last several years, managers, sales managers, GMs, dealer principals, salespeople, they've been making crazy money. And they can't, for the life of them, come to grips or even grasp the fact that this is like an anomaly. This is a blip. There's a great analogy, a story in the Bible about a guy named Joseph. He has a dream. He interprets a dream for Pharaoh at the time. Pharaoh has this dream about 7 cows coming up out of the Nile River and devouring all of the wheat, all of the vegetables and everything in the land. And I'm ad-libbing, of course, here, but the cows get big and fat. and big and healthy and put weight on, and they're lots of plenty there. Okay, and then the next night the Pharaoh goes to sleep. He has the same dream, but very differently. 7 skinny cows come up out of the Nile River and devour all the wheat and all the vegetables and all the resources, but they don't put any weight on, and in fact they remain skinny. And so the Pharaoh's obviously petrified. He calls for this guy Joseph. Hey, I heard you interpret dreams. Joseph said, listen, here's what I think. He says, I think that the 7 fat cows, the ones that put weight on, that's going to be 7 years of plenty. And then the 7 cows, the 7 skinny cows that came and ate up all the resources, all the wheat and everything, that's going to be 7 years of pain and famine in the land. And so here's what you should do, Pharaoh, you got to build big stock houses and save up to carry you through the 7 years of famine that is coming. And so he gave Pharaoh a fair warning, and Pharaoh was smart. He listened to Joseph. They built all these big granaries and stored up all this food, and Pharaoh ended up carrying the Egyptian people through, and with great success, through the 7 years, because it came to pass it was 7 years of famine. Anyways, point being, Pharaoh listened to the warning. Joseph told him, hey, you're headed for destruction. There are bad, tough times ahead. And if you don't make a fundamental change in the way that you operate your resource allocation, then you're going to get taken out. You're going to get smoked. And so that's what I believe is happening with Legacy Automotive. They had their many, many, many years of plenty and great profits, incredible profits. But now in this time of change, if they do not heed the warning and change fundamentally how they're doing business, then they will not survive the coming famine that is imminent for Legacy Automotive. So it's just a little analogy there. Hopefully you can do something with that. But yeah, artificial intelligence is going to change the game unbelievable how it's going to change the game. We just don't understand or comprehend. We hear the terms Chat GPT. It's becoming kind of a household name, but just go on there and see the capabilities. So watch some of these YouTube videos that are out there and show you what this thing is capable of. And some of these other AI software platforms that are just getting started. Where do you think these things are going to be in 2-3 years? Like try for a moment. Please, if you work in Legacy Automotive, just for a moment, try and extrapolate. Imagine where this stuff is going to be 2, 3, 4 years from now. Add to that the impact, the advent of electric vehicles and how these things are changing. And how that as a Legacy Auto salesperson, you are literally at the bottom rung. Like everyone above you, the management's above you, the dealer principal is above you, the manufacturer is above you, the shareholders of the Legacy Auto companies are above you, and they're all going to do everything they can to save themselves. And basically that means they have no problems knocking out whoever's on the lower rungs of the ladder beneath them. So it's a real deal. It's very serious. What is going to happen and what is already beginning to happen. And so I touched on earlier how Ford is lowering the MSRP of the Mustang Mach-E, which brings me to the point of margins and how they continue to shrink for Legacy Automotive car dealerships. You see, what's happening at the manufacturer level is that the costs of R&D or research and development continue to climb, and they're climbing at an accelerated rate. You see, these Legacy Automotive manufacturers are increasingly being forced to become tech companies. These are old school, like building cars, manufacturing type of companies, but now are being forced with the advent of all of this tech forward design in automotive. They're being forced to now compete for the same talent as the big tech companies, the Apples, the Googles, and so on. And so they're being forced to compete for the same talent to develop software, to design and engineer these new software-based vehicles, which are basically computers with wheels rather than wheels with computers, which they were just a few years ago. And so what's happening? Well, they're having to bid significantly more for the same talent. and they just don't have the resources. So what's going to happen? Well, that additional cost has to come out of the vehicles. And who's going to pay? Well, they can't increase the prices because look, they have to compete with Tesla. They have to compete with these other brands that are lowering prices, all these brands that are coming in from China and others. And so what do? Well, they have to bury it in the vehicle by reducing margins for the dealerships. And heck, they want to starve the dealerships out anyways. And so that's what they're very well going to do. They're going to continue to reduce margins, reduce the profits for legacy automotive car dealerships. These costs that they're incurring are being passed directly on to the car dealerships. And so what does that mean for car dealerships? As these margins continue to shrink, the dealerships are just going to continue to cut the salespeople's commissions. You see, salespeople on average get paid about 30% of profit. Well, how can the car dealership then recover some of the money that's been lost by their overall profit centers shrinking? Well, if they eliminate the salesperson or pay them half as much, 15, well, they just picked up 15%. Or if they eliminate them altogether, they just picked up 30%. So that's exactly what's going to happen. I mentioned earlier that these manufacturers and the dealer principals and so on and so forth, they're going to kick the problem to the person on the ladder beneath them, right? And so the person on the lowest rung of the ladder is the salesperson, and they're the ones that are going to get burned the heaviest and the hardest. Everybody's going to get smoked for sure, no doubt. The ones who are going to feel the biggest pain earlier on are the salespeople, and that's just a fact. And so what are my thoughts on the overall situation here? Well, the bottom line is that if you work in legacy automotive, as a salesperson specifically, I would really just genuinely urge you to consider looking at another line of work. The reality is that in a few years, your job is just not going to exist. So you can wait around to get pushed out, or you can start taking active effort to make a change in your life. As far as legacy manufacturers go, many of them are going to fall. Many of them are going to fail. We are going to see unprecedented bankruptcies. We're going to see restructurings. We're going to see mergers. We're going to see acquisitions, all kinds of crazy stuff in the next 5 to 10 years, even 5 to 8 years, really, because by 10 years from now, everything will be, we'll see where the dust settles. I mean, there is an enormous wave of competition for traditional legacy automotive manufacturers coming out of China. I'll get into that in another video, but the amount of money that's being pushed into EV and how focused they are on new technologies, on technology-based vehicles, the amount of support they have from their government is phenomenal. And the legacy auto manufacturers are just going to get crushed beneath that if they don't make some fundamental changes to just try and survive. Legacy automotive brands are in uncharted waters, and their public plans for EV transition is a very clear roadmap to where they're headed. I mean, I just looked at a couple of charts the other day, and Mazda was trying to say that by 2030, they'll only be selling 25% electric vehicles. And I'm thinking to myself, how does that even make sense? I mean, in most countries around the world, it'll be illegal to sell a gas vehicle, which is potentially then 75% of the vehicles that Mazda plans to manufacture will be gas if they're not electric. So it'll be illegal to even sell them in many countries around the world. So how does a company like that even plan to stay in business? I mean, it's ridiculous. I'll have to do a video covering that in a little bit more depth, but anyways, the bottom line is the writing's on the wall, and I'm just here to shout the warning. Hey guys, I see crazy red flags out there. There's big problems coming for legacy automotive, and I'm just here shouting the warning, spreading the word. So stick with me. We'll see you in the next video.